Hey y'all, it's Ilana and welcome back to my channel. I post content here about living in San Francisco. If you're interested in learning more about what it's like to live here in the Bay Area, go ahead and subscribe down below. I'd love to have you join the Kitten Squad. So let's get into this video. We are talking about things that I absolutely hate about San Francisco. So y'all know how much I absolutely love living here. I have a whole channel dedicated to living here. But I'd be lying if I said San Francisco was 100% perfect, because it's certainly not. I'm gonna share a couple things about what I don't like about San Francisco, and I'm not gonna lie, this list is probably going to seem a bit like other people's list of what they don't like in San Francisco, but I feel like there are some things that might be different on my list. I could be wrong, you be the judge of that. Number one, let's talk about the most obvious thing that I've complained about on this channel before, and that is the price of rent. Rent is just disgusting in San Francisco. I pay $1,600 for this itty bitty little room right here. It's pretty ridiculous, but you know what? It works for me and I am able to afford it, barely, because I'm working 2 part-time jobs right now, but that's besides the point. It's ridiculous. I really wish that it wasn't so expensive to live here. Sadly, there's a lot of gentrification and a lot of people in tech that have basically caused the price of rent to go up, and housing has become in such high demand because of that, and that is why the rent is ridiculous. It didn't used to be like this in the early 90s, and of course we can't go back in time and change that. It would be nice if rent never really increased over time like it did. It sucks that you have to compete to find a place to live. Nobody should ever have to fight for a place to live. Everyone should be able to find an apartment as long as they're able to afford it, and unfortunately in San Francisco, that is not the case here. It is a battlefield, and that's not how it should be, ever. I've said this before, I feel like I want to put this to rest. Rent is expensive, it's just expensive to live here. Let's go on to the next thing. So this leads me into the next thing, talking about how it's expensive to live here. Basically, the only way you can afford to live here is if you have a job at a big company, a startup, aka you work in tech in any kind of way. If you work in a nonprofit or some other industry or field, you're probably not going to be making that good of an income, because a lot of those salaries are not going to be livable for the Bay Area. And that's really frustrating because not everyone wants to work in tech. Some people really like working in nonprofits and they still want to be able to enjoy living in San Francisco. My first job was working in the field of mental health and education, and I was severely underpaid for the work that I did. And also it was an hourly job that would fluctuate from time to time based on my client's availability, and it was hard to live off that kind of job. I realized hourly jobs are not the way to go for me, especially in San Francisco, because there could be one month where I'm going to be having a ton of anxiety whether or not I'm going to be able to pay my rent or not. So I just feel like a lot of the big money will only come from tech jobs, and that's really frustrating. And I don't want to discourage anyone to move here if they're not working in tech. As long as you're able to find something that can work for you, that's great, but I just want to warn you that your budgets that you're setting for yourself when it comes to finding an apartment are going to be really disappointing, just because those rooms are hard to find based off the kind of salary that you're making. Again, not trying to discourage you, but want you to be realistic about what's going on. Let's go on to the third thing. So this is a topic that I really wanted to avoid on my channel just because I'm not as well educated about this as I should be, but there's a ton of homelessness here. And when you're homeless, you're more likely to develop a lot of mental health problems. What I've noticed is that the city does absolutely nothing about the homelessness. They'll supply some tents, and I feel like that's really it. Now, I know the city has been trying to get more homeless people off the street due to COVID-19 so they can have a healthier and safer lifestyle, but at the same time, there are some people who will literally migrate to San Francisco just to live out on the streets here. I don't really get that. I mean, it's because I'm not part of that community, so I wouldn't know, but I know that is a thing where people will move to San Francisco just to be homeless here. Some people who are homeless don't even want to get the help, which is really heartbreaking. And I just wish there was something more that we could do for these people. And I think people have been so comfortable with being on the street that they want to stay. But yeah, the homelessness is a big problem in the city, and I wish we didn't have to have that. Again, rent being so high that nobody can afford to live here. You get the point already. Let's go on to the fourth thing. So this one only impacted me when I used to have a car, but it doesn't really bother me as much anymore. But the traffic is still a nightmare, especially when you're commuting to and from work. Rush hour is disgusting here. The Bay Bridge is always backed up. Like always backed up. Thankfully, I don't really have to use that bridge, but it is a mess to even try to get on that bridge. Once you're on the bridge, the traffic isn't as terrible, but it's getting to the bridge that sucks. I will say it's not as bad as LA's traffic, thank God. That's the exact reason why I could never live in LA, because you need a car and it's just impossible to get anywhere. But with San Francisco, yes, it's bad and it does give me a headache, and I want it to go away. The fifth thing that really bothers me about San Francisco is like, oh my God, it's never warm here. You always have to wear a jacket when you leave your house. Even on a rare day when it's 80 degrees, you still want to bring a sweatshirt with you, because it will drop to the 60s or high 50s later on in the evening, and you're gonna regret the choice of not having a jacket. So don't ever be fooled by the warm weather that we do get, because later on in the day, it's just going to get cold. So it is really frustrating that we don't really have seasons here, and it's always really chilly. Really wish we had warmer days, more warmer days. I will say from September to November, we have something called an Indian summer, where the weather is warm, but you still need a jacket. It's so frustrating. Sometimes I just want to leave my house without a jacket. Some days I want to wear a skirt or a dress, but I can't because it's too cold to do that. So that's super frustrating, and something I wish that wasn't a thing here in San Francisco. Let's talk about the sixth thing. This one bothers me so much. The greed. People here are greedy little bitches and assholes. Some of the people that I've had to talk to over the phone being in recruiting have some of the biggest egos, the most entitled attitudes that I have ever encountered. It is appalling, and it makes me want to reject them, because I'm just like, your attitude sucks. Like, I don't want you working at my company. But sometimes I kind of have to oversee that, because they have really great skill sets, which is another thing that's frustrating in itself. People here care so much about money, and again, that has to do with the high cost of living here. Not everyone can make 200K. I know everyone in tech wants to make that kind of salary, but people just are so greedy, and it drives me insane. Yes, I'd like to make 200K too, but I'm going to be realistic in knowing that that's an income that I'm never going to make. At least maybe want to make 100K, and I know for me, that would be enough for me to live comfortably. I'm not greedy, and I know I'm just one person, and I'm kind of not like your typical Bay Area person who cares about all the money. Well, yes, money is great. To me, it's something that I don't need to make me happy. I just kind of want it to help me get by so I can live my life in a different way. I live my life differently in San Francisco. I try to do budget-friendly things. I try my hardest to make this work, and I don't ever want to be part of that greedy community that San Francisco has birthed. It's disgusting. Okay, so this one's gonna be pretty petty sounding, but I hate that San Francisco is a tourist city. I know, I'm pretty selfish. I will say if there's one thing that I've enjoyed about COVID is that it's keeping all the tourists out, and it's allowing all the locals to enjoy the city for what it is. So it's been really cool to see not as many people in the city, where it's not slammed with volumes and volumes of people. Yes, there's still a lot of people out and about, but there are people who are living in the Bay Area. And it's really nice to just be able to enjoy a city to yourself, where you actually live and you don't have tourists getting in the way of things. That's been kind of nice, but when it's not COVID times, the tourists are pretty stupid. I'm so sorry. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them are, especially when they're at the wharf. That's where they're at their prime worst. And I also recommend if you visit San Francisco, please don't go to the wharf. Just don't do it. You're gonna regret that choice. I would say I hate that it's a tourist city. I'm just very selfish. It's been really nice to just enjoy the city for what it is and enjoy it as a local. The eighth thing, y'all, I mentioned this on my channel like all the freaking time. Dating. It sucks here. I've made a whole video about why dating in San Francisco has taught me, and I told you everything about why dating in SF is the worst. Oh, and if you stick around until August, I'm making a part 2 of that, so you better get excited about it, because I got so much more stories to tell y'all about my dating experiences here. Dating is just so freaking hard. It's so hard. Go watch my video on what dating in San Francisco has taught me, because I don't want to re-explain it. It's right here for you to go watch. Do it after this video, okay? So for the 9th thing, our city's pretty dirty. Now, I wouldn't say it's one of the dirtiest cities I've ever encountered, but it's pretty gross. Especially when you go to certain parts of downtown and Soma and the Tenderloin. Those areas can be pretty gnarly. Lots of trash, lots of needles, just a lot of bad things that you just kind of don't really want to see. I wish the city did more work to keep the city clean. Yes, we do have weekly street cleaning for most roads here in the city, which is helpful. I could say San Francisco could be a little bit cleanlier and a lot less dirtier. But then again, it is a city, so I can't really complain too much about that one, because cities, they're just gonna have dirt. It's not a suburb. Like, I don't know what to tell y'all. All right, let's go to the last thing. This isn't necessarily a San Francisco problem, but this is something that I have experienced so much more ever since I have moved to San Francisco. There are way too many catcallers in this city. It is disgusting. I don't know who these people think they are, but sometimes I just want to walk in peace when I'm in the streets and not be bothered. I feel like there is always somebody that has something inappropriate to say to me regarding my body or my face, and it's disgusting. Like, do these people even think that this is supposed to work? Like, it's disgusting. Stop catcalling. It doesn't work. Women do not find that to be attractive. Please leave us alone. Just don't say anything to us. If you feel the need to approach us, there are so many more appropriate and better non-creepy ways to approach a person if you find them attractive and you want to get to know a little bit more about them. But shouting things like, "Hey, yo, baby girl, you sexy, I like your face," is disgusting. Do not talk to people like that. So yeah, I've encountered a ton of that in the city. I don't have time for it, I just ignore it. And if you do get catcalled, never give it attention, keep walking. Another thing that I hate to say is sometimes when we do ignore it, women have still gotten killed for ignoring a catcaller. And that's a whole nother issue that I'm not gonna get into. Yeah, those are all the things that I pretty much hate about San Francisco and that frustrate me from time to time. I'm curious to know what frustrates you the most about your city or San Francisco. Try to be tactful. I know I was pretty negative in this video, but let's not get malicious in the comments when we discuss our frustrations. That's all I ask for. Guys, if you like this video, you felt like you could relate to it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.